Hello again, and welcome back to another edition of The Wicked Conservative. Today, I wanted to present to you what I believe is turning into the new normal. So, I went ahead and scoured the internet after finding a few articles highlighting the crafty ideas businesses are implementing for the sake of social distancing. During my internet travels, I found a worrisome trend start to emerge. And what I'm about to show you is a visualization of what I believe the new normal is becoming. So early in the shutdowns, everyone was telling us that after the virus passes, as long as we shut down, we flatten the curve, life will go back to normal, right? They even scoffed at the idea that there could possibly be a new normal. But to me, the images that I bring before you today paint a very scary picture of exactly what the new normal is becoming. Now, depending on where you live, the country itself is in various stages of either lockdown, not a lockdown, or reopening. So you personally may not be seeing much of the new normal in your immediate vicinity, and to you, that's encouraging. But if we take a step back and view what is happening in the world as the big picture, we notice that there is so much more to this new normal than what you may be able to see with your own eyes. Sometimes Americans get so wrapped up with themselves, they fail to see what's happening in other places around the world. In these images, we can see that the virus has swept the globe. It isn't just affecting the way of life for Americans. It has fundamentally changed the way of life for many people in many different countries. Now, we can laugh at the humorous images of the creative social distancing apparatuses such as the pool noodle hats or the bumper car bar tables, the T-Rex costumes, and even children wearing hula hoops for social distancing in schools. But we also have to acknowledge some of the most gut-wrenching images that anybody could imagine aside from torture, starvation, and pain. Some of these images of children staring at each other from a distance on the playground or standing in chalk-lined squares instead of playing like normal kids and enjoying each other's company has gone viral on the internet, and people are encouraging others to do it as well. So instead of social gatherings or birthday parties, they're having car parades and honk for my birthday girl or boy. And school life for these children is also dramatically changing. As you could see, some of the schools in China have implemented social distancing wings or hats. They have spaces marked for social distancing lines, and even graduations have been mutated into a virtual ceremony with iPads of students' faces on creepy mannequin-like bodies. But that's not where this stops. The scare of the virus has affected almost every normal aspect of life. You've seen social distancing toilets. There are people who are social distancing yoga groups. There are social distancing walking trails. There are social distancing parties and gatherings. And people who are adapting and adopting the way of social distancing. We have people in nursing homes who are no longer allowed to have lunch with the people that they're in contact with every single day. They have to sit outside of their rooms and eat in order to interact with each other because they're no longer allowed to be less than 6 feet apart. You have people who are creating interesting and detailed ways to get around not having social contact with people. There are social distancing neighborhood dance parties. There are social distancing dad meetings. There are social distancing everything. And I have to ask the people who said that everything would go back to normal, how do we come back from this? Once it has become so normal for us to be distant from one another, after we have raised our children to be distant from one another and to have celebrations at a distance, how do we in turn go back to what we used to consider normal? Hugging each other upon seeing an old friend, shaking hands as a method of greeting, giving kisses to our loved ones without the barrier of a mask. These are just a little bit of social changes that we have noticed. When we look at it at a different angle, you can see that social distancing is being implemented also in your public life. Grocery stores have taped and measured areas of where you can stand in line, how far away you have to be from other shoppers. They have taped arrows onto their floors, letting you know which side of the aisle that you can go up and which side of the aisle you can go down. You see plastic or plexiglass barriers at checkout counters, while more and more employees are being told to wear masks and to wear gloves in the name of safety. But these implementations have some Americans questioning the effectiveness of these measures. Are gloves that are worn for every single customer really stopping cross-contamination? Is a cloth mask really stopping a virus from entering your mouth or your nasal cavities? Is it really different to be in a close proximity in a grocery store as opposed to being in close proximity of your neighbors or your family members? Does it really make a difference what side of the store you go into as opposed to the side of the store that you can exit from? These are just people asking general health-related questions in regards to the controlling mechanisms that are coming from implementing social distancing. We want to know, what is the difference if we all touch the same pin pad at the grocery store as opposed to you taking cash out of my pocket and giving me change? But on the other hand, we also have people who are ramping up their personal protection in fear. With the conflicting messages that are coming from the largest health organizations, people are letting their fear take over. They want to protect themselves, so they buy any mask that they can. And they've even trickled down that mask wearing culture to the animals in their lives. They wanted to know if their pets could get coronavirus. Since there was no clear-cut answer, you have more and more people taking masks and giving them to their animals and putting their animals in hazmat suits and going above and beyond, not only for their own protection, but also for the protection of the pets that can't take the precautions that humans take. They're buying them air quality control masks. They are not allowing them to go out into the pet parks. They are sincerely worried about how that affects not only their pets' health, but in turn their own health and safety. As the fear increases, people are starting to take more and more extreme measures. Let's go to the religious aspect of this conversation next. Church services have been transformed now into a drive-in activity. They have followers standing in parking lots, separated from their fellow parishioners, socially distancing themselves around the buildings during service. These are people that were in contact with each other on a regular basis. They are also people who claim to put their faith above all. And they have been so shaken and so stirred by the conflicting messages and the different implementations that have been forced upon them, that they are now listening to a man in charge of their daily religious activities, as opposed to listening to their faith or their own influences or their own beliefs. And we have to ask, where does it start? How do we go back to normal after you've disrupted so many people and transformed their entire way of life? You're not talking about just keeping a few people who are already sick away from the rest of the population. We are actively looking for new ways to implement even more social distancing. How do we teach our children to communicate and feel empathy and continue to build relationships when everybody is kept at arm's length? We have to start thinking about what happens to the mental health of our population once we accept this way of life as a new normal. Because we have been going through this now for, depending upon your area, at least a month. And we are now all becoming accustomed to the ways of the new normal. We see more people going out with masks. I see more advertisements for people creating their own masks. You see people coming up with ingenious ways of making their own apparatus to protect their faces. And at some point, we're going to have to reintroduce ourselves back into the germy world, into the bacteria-infested areas that we all cohabit. And this isn't something that is above our knowledge. This isn't something that we are not used to doing. This is something that we've been doing since the existence of mankind. Why all of a sudden do we think that if we close ourselves off from anything and everything that could potentially be harmful to us, that we will somehow overcome illness or overcome an eventual death? At what point do we value our quality of life over the quantity of our life, being the length of which we live? Celebrities aren't above this. You can see them posting their mask pictures on social media posts. You can see them actually making makeshift hazmat suits for air travels. You can see them virtue signaling from their homes, telling us that we're all in this together and that we need to stay quarantined. But as the American people and the people across the world start to go back out into public, they are making themselves unavailable still by putting themselves in hazmat suits. We have changed the way that we travel by spraying down passengers arriving at their destinations. We are changing the way that we live because a virus is getting people sick. And we just have to start asking ourselves, is this the new normal that we were afraid of? Is this the way of the future? Is this how our children will be released back into the world? For many, they justify this change as being part of the greater good or just a precaution. But the rest of us are asking, how do we come back from the new normal? How do we return our lives to what they once were? And how do we get back social interaction?